So welcome back to part 7, and we are just in these little tunnels over here. And we are on our way to meet with Silhouette leaders, the Duclairs, so that we can kind of get a little more background. We're trying to meet with Morgan Everett and Beth Duclair specifically, who are former leaders of the Illuminati. And that way we can kind of get a little more of a background as to what is going on with Bob Page, Majestic 12, you know, this whole conspiracy. Maybe they can help us out. Tracer Tong seems to think they may have some information that would be useful to us, as well as Stanton Dowd, who is also a former member who we've met in part 6 of this series.
I now have full access to your systems.
So that's something kind of weird. We see something called Icarus coming over our info link telling me he has full access of our systems. So on this public access terminal, we can see a lot of very, very interesting things. We actually see Interpol now wants us as well. So that's just a growing list of people that are after us. And we see that they are also trying to locate Alec Jacobson. Fortunately, Dr. Reyes is also kind of drug into this. This is very concerning here. We see that strange voice that came over our info link earlier, Icarus. Says, Icarus found you, run while you can. So a very, very weird thing to find on a public bulletin board. This talks a little bit about the situation here in Paris and the fact that they are under curfew and that the catacombs are off limits. This one kind of goes a little bit about the conspiracy in Paris. They're kind of not trusting their government either. I'll let you read that. That's kind of from Silhouette posting on there.
In France, MJ-12 is strong enough to operate in the open. They have blockaded this metro station.
Heard of a resistance group called Silhouette?
My primary market.
I need to contact them. I've been told they have a hideout in the catacombs.
Not a good time for Silhouette. The government is cracking down.
Yeah?
I saw commandos and troops going in the catacombs entrance across the street. They plan to occupy the entire network.
Is Silhouette's bunker concealed?
Quite ingeniously. But a soldier will stumble into the secret door eventually. Anyway, can we make a deal?
Crackdown must hurt business.
My customers are in a Roman tomb underground waiting to be killed. Yes, it has hurt business.
I'm working against the group that controls the French government. I want to help Silhouette. Tell me how to find the secret bunker.
You want to fight the entire French army?
The troops you've seen aren't French. They belong to an international group called Majestic 12.
I have heard these rumors. Maybe it is true, and maybe you will help Silhouette. But they trust me to keep their secret.
So we can see that Majestic 12 operates out in the open, and they pretty much have this place on lockdown, very oppressive towards the people of France.
I'm right behind you, Mr. Denton.
Who's this?
Soon, I will be ahead of you, beside you. I will be a part of everything in your world.
Everything, huh? Is that God you're talking about, or just a bunch of New Age crap?
Yes, the New Age. Too bad you will not be alive to see it.
So we get a really, really creepy phone call there just now. Somebody says that they're right behind me, ahead of me, all around me. Don't exactly know who it is at this time. So here we are actually in the catacombs, searching for the Silhouette group at this point.
The reports I am finding indicate a siege on the catacombs. MJ-12 must be trying to drive Silhouette from their hideout. You're close to the bunker where Silhouette has barricaded themselves. The leader's name is Chad. Strange. The area looks different than it does on my map. Some new construction. Maybe they've concealed themselves from Majestic.
In the form of a hidden wall. So here we are. We have just entered the actual Silhouette compound. It actually was behind a hidden wall over here. And we see a lot of the troops in hiding and very fearful of the Majestic 12. So here we come into this room and we see the leader of the Silhouette movement at this time, which is a guy named Chad, at least this section here. Not what I was expecting. I'm not sure if you got that same thought. It's very kind of scrawny dude, but I'm sure he's got some mad street smarts.
I'm J.C. Denton. You might know my brother Paul. I helped him send your group a warning about the crackdown.
Denton. Yes, the satellite transmission saved us from La Prison de Fresnes at least.
Pretty much a skeleton crew you have here. How long can your people hold off MJ-12?
We're not mercenaries. When the troopers moved into the crypts, half of my people retreated without firing a shot. 2 of them took a wrong turn and were taken prisoner.
Where?
In Bunker 3, the tunnels behind the second blast door.
Maybe I can help you out, in exchange for a small favor. I need to find Nicolette Duclair.
Nicolette? What do you want with Nicolette?
I need to contact some friends of her mother's.
Oh yes, Beth. A great woman. Nicolette is very secretive about her mother's friends. She tells us that they are wealthy and support our cause, but they have many enemies and need to be protected. I might be able to help you, but I must be certain of your loyalty.
You have a right to be cautious. Just point me to Bunker 3.
I have the key to the blast door, which is directly across from our hideout, and a map you might find useful. Get my people back and I will put you in touch with Nicolette. We train teams to wire buildings with C4. They go in at night to avoid confrontation. In a straight fight against commandos, they just don't have the equipment or expertise. I can't bear to imagine what methods of interrogation Majestic 12 will use on my people. Silhouette is not a military group. Our attacks are symbolic, intended to influence the public. We publicize certain things like the Statue of Liberty bombing. It's just so fitting that the American government will destroy the gift of freedom we gave your country almost 200 years ago, and then try to blame it on us. The rhetoric in Washington has done more to defeat liberty than all of the armies and police forces in the world. When government surveillance and intimidation is called freedom for terrorism or liberation for crime, freedom and liberty have become words without meanings. I know Majestic 12. When they have learned what they can, they will execute every last one of the prisoners. This war all around us is being thought over the very meanings of words.
So here we see some very interesting information. Once again, FEMA, which doesn't, still make sense up to this point, but they're looking for, Tracer Tong, JC Denton, the character we were playing, Alec Jacobson. All these names are really familiar, but one that just got added to the list was Morgan Everett, and of course Tracer Tong.
I freed the hostages.
Wonderful. Where are they?
Both of them made it to the hideout safely. I made sure of it.
Excellent. I cannot believe our good fortune. Now, you wanted to contact Nicolette?
Yes.
You might catch her at Club La Porte de l'Enfer. I tried to tell her it's not safe, but ever since her mother's assassination, she has been careless. She goes out every night as though daring the assassins to show their faces.
A Silhouette hangout?
Among other things. But you can't get there at night, the roads are blocked.
What about the tunnels?
The catacombs do not go that far. You might try the sewers, though. They can be reached through the rear blast door.
Thanks again for the help.
Nicolette has been somewhat mysterious about her reasons for supporting us. I do not pretend to understand her. Through her mother's estate, she has provided Silhouette with immense amounts of funding. I'm reluctant to believe her patronage is entirely benign. What inclines me to trust Nicolette, however, is that her mother's death 6 months ago, we're fairly certain, was the work of Majestic 12. I wish Nicolette would be more sensible. She should find a place to hide and stay there.
So here we see that Beth Duclair is actually dead. She was assassinated by what people believe to be Majestic 12. And her daughter, Nicolette Duclair, is basically taken over as the financier of Silhouette. And she's basically mocking these assassins, going out in public, not acting in a way that you would act if your mother was just assassinated and you kind of took over the reins of that whole operation. He's basically saying you would expect someone to be in hiding and things like that after that, but she's just like, screw that.
I couldn't help overhearing about your son.
Joshua, be careful. You don't know this man.
You have nothing to fear. I would like to see the end of Majestic 12 as much as you would. I was just surprised to find a Parisian who has heard the name.
Well, my son, I learned what I can about him.
What else have you found out?
You are one of the revolutionaries, huh? Maybe you can do something with this. Street Station 17 and Werewolf from a card in his wallet. I think it is the logging for the guard shack up the street.
What about Michel? You'll get him killed.
He was the one who wanted to be a soldier.
At least one cafe stayed open during the crackdown.
We will never close, no matter what.
Is there some kind of curfew?
Not yet, but the police programmed the bots to shoot anyone who leaves his arrondissement after dark.
I'm looking for a friend, Nicolette Duclair.
A leader of Silhouette, a true patriot.
Know where I might find her?
Where the criminals and students go at night, La Porte de l'Enfer, just across the street.
Thanks. This crackdown is the work of Majestic 12.
You mean the European Union?
They are a group of conspirators who have been seizing governments all over the world.
I don't care what they call themselves. I have seen it since I was a girl, the plotting and scheming of corporations to make Europe into one big country with no separate languages, cultures, or tastes.
It's more than Europe they plan to unify.
So I thought that was very interesting that we see throughout this game different versions of people's stories, basically. So she thinks that Majestic 12 was the European Union trying to unify just Europe, getting rid of everything, and getting rid of the cultures, moving to just one kind of world order that we see. But JC's like, just to let you know, this is a worldwide scale that they're doing this on.
Observe your motivations for breaking arbitrary laws of current government. Do not miss your chance to be one of us and create the new world order.
So there's that strange thing coming over my infolink again, who identifies himself as Icarus. We don't know who that is yet, but when I broke into this room, he seemed to know that I did it and kind of called me out on it. So hopefully he kind of makes himself clear in the future.
Thin crowd. Has martial law heard business?
Heard business? Heard business? You can even get on the metro. How can you get to the club without the metro?
I came through the catacombs.
Oui. The only way is to crawl on your belly like a stinking rat. That's all we get, stinking rats.
Silhouette members, you mean?
Rats. And the Gestapo. And they want free drinks.
Gestapo?
Not French soldiers. Some of them don't even speak French.
The troops at the metro?
Oui, there was a coup. We see the president only on video recording, and sweat is dripping from his mustache because it's obvious. Someone is pointing a gun at his head.
You might be right about that.
So the bartender says something very, very interesting. You know, he's talking about the Majestic 12 that have obviously taken over the town, but he says that you can even tell on TV that the French president really isn't even in charge anymore. Basically, somebody else is pulling the strings.
Know the name Nicolette Duclair?
What do you want with Miss Duclair?
A private matter.
This club has good security. You try something, you won't be arrested. You will be dead.
I'm a friend of hers.
She would have told me to expect you.
What do you think of Silhouette?
They have the right idea, but they are weak.
Do they have much popular support?
The people are ready to fight. Foreign troops go down the street every day, not even afraid of being seen.
The group that has occupied the Chancellery is called Majestic 12. They control the United Nations and plot against other governments as well.
What we need is an army. Silhouette should be organizing resistance, not spreading around slogans everybody already agrees with.
So just a little bit more about kind of the feelings, I guess, of Silhouette here in France. Now, she says, you know, they're very weak when compared to Majestic 12, but that's understandable because Majestic 12 is very, very well funded. Now, the other thing she says is that they need to kind of quit spreading slogans around and actually fight. That's her kind of opinion on that. So they're more of, I guess you could call them more of a passive-aggressive type of group at this stage.
I'm looking for Nicolette Duclair.
So?
Do you know her?
I know her name. I know that her mother called her Angel.
You know her mother? It's a friend of her mother's I need to find.
Angel. That would make her a fallen angel now, wouldn't it? You must be after Everett.
Yeah, Morgan Everett. How did you guess?
What makes you think Nicolette would betray one of her mother's closest friends?
I helped her friends from Silhouette. Chad will vouch for me. I'm after the people who murdered her mother.
You are an assassin or something?
When necessary.
Go out behind the club. I will talk to Nicolette and perhaps she will meet you there.
She decided not to show?
I am Nicolette. I will help you simply to make trouble for Majestic 12. It's true. They killed my mother.
Do you know why?
She was an Illuminatus. The only people MJ12 has ever feared are the Illuminati.
Stanton Dowd said they had fallen from power.
How do you know Dowd?
I met him in New York.
A trusted friend of my mother's. Yes, the Illuminati are wiped out, but Paige still fears Morgan Everett.
Where do we find him?
One of my mother's many secrets. We'll have to look for clues at my family's chateau.
How does Everett threaten Bob Page?
Page was an Illuminatus. For him, intellect is the foundation of power, and that would make Everett his most dangerous rival.
But Everett's the one in hiding.
Both the Illuminati and MJ-12 believe that the most intelligent or enlightened human being will inevitably gain power, ultimately seizing the eye in the pyramid and creating the world for everyone else. Kind of secularized version of natural law.
Page has a trained army to protect him.
He is still vulnerable. Much of his power comes from secret laboratories, meaning the right person could reverse engineer his whole power base.
Let's hope you're right, and that Everett is everything you say he is. Let's go.
You trust the guy in the helicopter?
That's Jock. Don't worry, he hasn't let me down yet. Come on.
So at this point we see something very, very interesting from Nicolette Duclair. She has said that MJ-12 she knows is the one that killed her mother, Beth Duclair. And that the other very, very interesting thing is that the only thing that Bob Page and Majestic 12 fear is the Illuminati, which is very funny because the Majestic 12 and Bob Page broke off from that organization. And she says that intellect is the most important and valuable thing to Bob Page. And kind of going full circle from what I said in my last video, you know, the fact that we really don't see any tie to Megan Reed and the Grey Death virus. If anything, it says flat out that Morgan Everett created the Grey Death. That's why Bob Page fears him so much, is because he could reverse engineer this Grey Death virus, and then Bob Page would lose all of control because nobody would need to buy his cure, basically. So we saw Gunther right in the background right when we were getting ready to leave, and very, very interesting. He's always one step behind us, it feels like.
I had not wanted to see this place again.
Why not?
I was afraid it would be like this. The same. Not a stone out of place.
You would rather that Majestic 12 had burned it down?
I would rather... No, let's go. Only in novels do places crumble to dust for no reason when their spirit is lost.
Your mother?
Lead the way. I no longer have a key. We must find my mother's secret computer room, where she did all her work, a place she kept hidden, even from me. A good place to start would be my mom's bedroom, upstairs. My mother and I were no longer speaking at the time of her death. I left home because she and her Illuminati cronies were always pushing me into things. I was a rotten student, but that didn't stop them from getting me enrolled at La Sorbonne. I was a stand-in for the world they never got to take over. Some conspiracy, huh? They couldn't even control little Nicolette. Right to the very end, my mother believed they were going to stitch the group back together and rule the world.
So we arrived at Beth Duclair's home where Nicolette used to live, and she tells us that it's basically been boarded up, you know, hasn't been touched, and we are to find basically a secret room. So this is kind of an interesting data cube that we see behind this painting here, but it says, you know, Beth Duclair is Nicolette's mom, and she says, you know, basically there's one day that you're going to have to know this stuff about the Illuminati. And in the beginning of this episode, we did see that Beth Duclair did keep a lot of things from Nicolette.
What are you looking for?
So once again, this Icarus comes over our info link and asks us what we're looking for. So at this point, we're like, who is this guy? Like, seriously, how does he know everywhere we've been, you know? So there's a little bit about the Silhouette business, as it says, and it's from the leader of Silhouette now, who is this guy named Chad, who we met in the catacombs, to Nicolette Duclair. And this one kind of shows a little bit of background about Beth and Nicolette Duclair there.
You will find no one to help you here. Beth Duclair has been dissected and placed in cryonic storage.
So that's probably the worst message we've seen so far from that Icarus. I mean, that's just crazy. They have dissected Beth Duclair and she's in cryo storage. But I guess that's not really too far out of the realm of what is in the conspiracy from these games, because we see in Mankind Divided kind of hints that Adam Jensen could possibly be a clone. There's a lot of unanswered things as of yet in that game as far as the trip in the missing link when you go to the Arctic and things like that.
An old bunker built during World War II by the previous owner to hide Jewish families. The Duclairs acquired the property after the Nazis sent him to a camp in Germany. Strange. I'm picking up duty fiber activity.
Probably coming from that room. A dungeon.
Some kind of giant routing station. Not on any telecom map I've ever seen. Beth Duclair's probably used it to analyze net traffic.
Here we see a final message from Morgan Everett here. And it goes into the Aquinas program that we saw from the very, very beginning of this opening cutscene of this game. And it goes into a little bit about Majestic 12 as well.
So you found Beth's computer. We are destined to meet, perhaps. If you are truly our ally, you will help me access the MJ-12 computer network and complete the Grey Death vaccine. Find Nicolette. You will need her key in order to exit through the crypt. I will be directing you to a nearby cathedral.
So we finally made contact with the mysterious Morgan Everett, and now we need to actually escape and go meet him.
What is it?
A transmission from Morgan Everett. He wants me to go out the back way through the crypt to a nearby cathedral.
The Cathedral of the Knights Templar?
He didn't say. I'm supposed to access the Majestic 12 computer network.
Yes, Majestic 12 controls the place now. They killed the Knights for their gold reserves. Everett must want you to sneak to that part of town through the sewers that connect to our property.
I thought the Templars vanished centuries ago.
They invented the modern banking system and were its directors, under one name or another, until Majestic 12 took over.
He said you had a key.
Yes, here it is. The crypt is in the maze behind the chateau. Listen to Everett. He is right to want to avenge the Templars. The Templars inherited the gold of the original French treasury, which was run by a Templar until the order was suppressed. Just before the crackdown in 1307, the gold was secretly moved to a cathedral, where it has remained ever since. The Nazis plundered a third of it during World War II, but most of the gold remains.
So we get a little more background, and we are introduced to the Knights Templar in this game as well, and how they tie into it. Now, a lot of people have probably thought they are long gone, died off. In this game, it seems that they are still around. At least their gold is, according to Nicolette. So, and we're going to apparently learn some more about them, obviously, coming up. So,
Exit the Duclair estate through the crypt at the end of the maze. The system I need you to access is inside a cathedral that belonged to the Knights Templar until MJ-12 slaughtered the Knights for the gold reserves.
So ever see another mention of the Majestic 12? They actually killed the Knights Templar, according to Morgan Everett, for their gold reserves. And Nicolette Duclair actually said earlier that about a third, anywhere from a third to a half of it was actually plundered during World War II by the Nazis.
I'm going to stay to go through some of my mother's things. Everett will be a powerful ally, but you can be certain that he will have his own agenda. Crazy. I lost my virginity out here. I believe Mom was out conspiring to get me into La Sorbonne at the time.
Thanks for sharing that, Nicolette.
You're going the right way. I primarily need you to establish an uplink from the MJ-12 network, but I also have uses for that gold. When you locate it, I will send someone to recover it. Prepare to receive a map of the cathedral.
Keep going past the metro station. The cathedral is to the south. Transmitting a photograph.
So there we see Daedalus coming back over our infolink, and we haven't heard from him from just a little bit. And it's nice to see that maybe he's the sane one out of all these people that keep contacting us over our infolink when compared to like Icarus. Although we still don't know who either one of them are. So these are very, very good kind of lore aspects of the game. We see the history of the Knights Templar here. I'll leave that up for those of you that would like to read these. But Morgan Everett, when we first walk into this area, says that this is worth its weight as gold as far as this library.
Do not give Everett access to our systems. His only objective is power. You are being manipulated.
So there Icarus comes on over our infolink again and says that Morgan Everett only wants power. do not give him access to our systems. Now, the only systems that Morgan Everett has asked to be a part of or gain access to is MJ-12. So at this point, you start wondering, is Icarus somebody within Majestic 12?
Once I knelt in this chapel for communion with 2 Rockefellers and a Rothschild. Since the time of the Crusades, every leader in finance has prayed for the...
So we hear some interesting aspects from Morgan Everett there about the Templar and their gold and their banking. We've heard a lot throughout this that they were in charge of the banking system, and you can even look up some historical facts on that, and you can actually see that they were in fact running the banking system in Europe in the medieval times. And he also mentions the Rothschilds and things like that, who are very, very well known for being tremendously wealthy from banking.
You're a small, prowling mouse, and dumb like a mouse. You keep coming, like you forget about Agent Navarre. I remember Agent Navarre. I remember for everyone.
So it seems like Gunther may be in this area, finally caught up to me after being one step behind pretty much this entire game after we left UNATCO. So be interesting to see if we see him in the future.
The gold. Wonderful. My people will take control when you move out. I believe you know Chad. I've given him control of an NSF platoon on loan to me from America.
So in here we see a lot of interesting things. This is actually where all the gold is. If you can tell, these are the gold bars that are kind of hanging out there on the end where my crosshairs are. But there's a lot of ambrosia storage containers that we see here, the vaccine, a lot of interesting things. And then, of course, Morgan Everett tells us a little bit about how the Nazis actually went to take this but had to abandon it during the evacuation in World War II. So we can pretty much tell that Gunther is in this area. And when we come into this particular room, we see actually more ambrosia containers. So there is something probably going to be going on here, because we know that now VersaLife, which is under Majestic 12 control, actually owns this stuff. So the fact that it is in here, it's a little alarming.
I regret that only once we worked together. Now the game has changed.
You came all the way to Paris to tell me that?
It is a simple message I am demonstrating. We know where you are going and what you intend.
That doesn't mean you can stop me.
I have been upgraded for this assignment.
We did certainly teach you how to fight, didn't we?
You're worried, Simons. We almost have a cure.
You have nothing. Even if Everett succeeds, you can't synthesize enough vaccine to stop an epidemic. You need a universal constructor, and don't think Page Industries is going to leave one lying around for you to use. Not after you blew up the one in Hong Kong.
I was never properly trained in its operation.
Laugh it up, Denton. Next time we won't use an old box of bolts like Gunther. The only reason I let him go to Paris is that I was sick of his moaning about Navarra and constant requests for a tune-up.
You sent him because you knew he would fight to the death.
He was the last of the mechs. Next time you will face someone of your own abilities.
So we see something very interesting with Walter Simons here. We see that Gunther is considered an old box of bolts, basically the old mech units. Now he says that we are going to face somebody with our more along our abilities this next time. So we can see that the mechs like Gunther and Agent Navarre were basically older models of the augmentation program.
I'm getting what I need. Good work. I will now consent to meet you in person. Go to the metro station nearby and await my instructions. For a day or so.
So Morgan Everett has actually basically told us now what the Icarus thing is that has been coming over our info link. And he says it's a Majestic 12 AI. Basically no worries, no need to be alarmed. But he does say something very interesting. He can keep JC and Daedalus safe for now. So that's very, very interesting that he says that.
Your systems were very cooperative. Upload complete.
You were just a prototype, Denton. A prototype for me.
So we see something that says upload complete from Icarus. We don't exactly know what that is. And then, of course, Bob Page says that we were a prototype. So things are starting to get a little weird at this stage. There's some interesting kind of background on the Templars there. Kind of tells you about the cathedral that we were just in and some of the kind of fascinating things about them living in hiding after they were kind of outcasted.
J.C. Denton, I will take you to Everett, but you will be forbidden to learn the way yourself.
That will be quite a trick.
You will not be armed in any way.
So you can choose either option, but they both result in the same thing.
Do what you must.
Step a little closer. See, no inconvenience whatsoever.
Everett must be paranoid.
We all are. The Illuminati is getting a taste of its own medicine.
Has he made any progress on the Grey Death virus?
Your uplink provided the missing encryption key. He has been able to complete the work that Professor Tong began.
I must see him at once.
He is downstairs in the lab. It would be rather serendipitous if Bob Page invented something Everett could not figure out. We have never failed to decipher Majestic 12's plans. Stopping them, however, has been another matter. Your President Meade survived the coup attempt, but he won't survive a national epidemic of the plague. Page is manufacturing the virus again, while Simons readies the paperwork to declare national emergency. The logical response is for us simply to cure the plague. Everett has a vaccine, but we need a way to manufacture it.
So we see some very, very interesting things. So one, how did we get here? We don't know if we were actually blindfolded or drugged or what, but they were very paranoid about this location. This guy Toby here, who seems to be Morgan Everett's assistant, has mentioned that President Meade survived the coup attempt, but may not survive the plague that they are making from Majestic 12 and VersaLife. Now, we do have a cure, but we don't have a way to mass produce it, and we need a universal constructor to do so, as Bob Page has said, and they are very, very expensive. So basically at this time we are in Morgan Everett's kind of home. We know that it is somewhere in Paris, but the exact location is obviously unknown.
The Illuminati's objective is to be deceived.
So once again we see Icarus telling us that the Illuminati may be trying to deceive us. And we see some very interesting kind of Freemason symbols on this wall over here, as well as the Illuminati symbol of the all-seeing eye here. So there's actually a secret passage through here on this bathroom mirror that I destroyed. And if we come down here, we see some very, very interesting things. We see a man that appears to be in some kind of cryo-freezing chamber, if you will.
What are you doing back here? Denton, right?
Yeah. You're alive in that thing?
I am conscious. Tell Everett I am cold. He keeps me so cold.
Who are you? Do you mind if I ask?
The Supreme Enlightened. The leader of the Illuminati.
I thought Everett was a leader.
I am the leader. I brought the Illuminati up through the 20th century to the height of their power. I had presidents and premiers eating out of my hand. I am the one. Our decline is the result of my own. All we need is for me to get back on my feet. What did Everett tell you?
Nothing.
I merely await certain technologies. Then I will be restored. Everett has sworn it.
So we see this guy's name is Lucius De Beer, and apparently Morgan Everett has promised him some kind of upgrades or something like that whenever the technology becomes available. But until then, apparently it looks like he's in cryo. So as of right now, it looks like Morgan Everett seems to be a pretty good guy. But it does seem very, very creepy to keep a guy behind a bathroom. It just, yeah, the whole thing just seems kind of weird. So here in another part of Morgan Everett's home, we can see that Alec Jacobson is actually here as well. So we don't know exactly how he got here. Probably the same method that we did, though.
Good news, huh? Looks like we might pull this thing off.
Alex, what are you doing here?
Tong sent me. He wanted me to help with the decryption.
Looks like Everett has it all figured out.
Listen quickly. Tong doesn't trust the Illuminati. He sent me here to keep an eye on Everett.
I see. How about the triads? Is the truce going to hold?
Last I heard. But I guess we have other things to worry about now, huh? I'll keep you in touch through your info link. I'll try my best to keep you informed.
Yes, do exactly that. Keep me informed.
So we have a trusted group of people, and I think by this time we know that Tracer Tong is one of those, Alec Jacobson, obviously. And it's very, very funny that it's very, very interesting that Tong says he does not trust the Illuminati and actually sends Alec Jacobson here to actually keep tabs on them.
You won't be hearing from Tong for a while. He had to leave Hong Kong.
Why? The triads?
He said he had some business to take care of. I don't know. He didn't look so good.
Sick?
Either that or something was bothering him. The last thing he said to me, it was something about all the machines in his lab being useless. And then he cut off the connection.
Useless for what?
It was just an outburst. I don't know, but he wants me to wait here for instructions. JC, Tong is serious about Everett. He wants you to be careful. While you're in the air, I guess I'll be helping Everett prepare Daedalus for the attack. I hope he knows what he's doing. The Echelon kernel was designed almost exclusively for collecting data, so we have to add functionality for memory wipes, thread termination, that kind of thing. It's not often you get to construct a software worm that might do some good for the world. Everett and Tong will need some control of the network if they're ever going to come out of hiding.
So we can see there that Tong has said that he does not trust the Illuminati or Everett. So it's very, very interesting that he has Alex Jacobson come along. And then, of course, he says that Daedalus is being, prepared for these attacks. So we still, at this point, do not know who Daedalus is. But it looks like we may be getting closer. There's kind of a weird-looking data cube that basically says, don't touch the temperature settings for that Lucius De Beer, the guy that was in the cryo chamber. And he doesn't want him thawing out, basically. That was from Everett.
J.C. Denton, 23 years old, no residence, no ancestors, no employer, no...
How do you know who I am?
I must greet each visitor with a complete summary of his file. I'm a prototype for a much larger system.
What else do you know about me?
Everything that can be known.
Go on. Do you have proof about my ancestors?
You are a planned organism, the offspring of knowledge and imagination, rather than of individuals.
I'm engineered, so what? My brother and I suspected as much while we were growing up.
You are carefully watched by many people. The unplanned organism is a question asked by nature and answered by death. You are another kind of question, with another kind of answer.
Are you programmed to invent riddles?
I am a prototype for a much larger system. The heuristics language developed by Dr. Everett allows me to convey the highest and most succinct tier of any pyramidal construct of knowledge.
How about a report on yourself?
I was a prototype for Echelon 4. My instructions are to amuse visitors with information about themselves.
I don't see anything amusing about spying on people.
Human beings feel pleasure when they are watched. I have recorded their smiles as I tell them who they are.
Some people just don't understand the dangers of indiscriminate surveillance.
The need to be observed and understood was once satisfied by God. Now, we can implement the same functionality with data mining algorithms.
Electronic surveillance hardly inspires reverence. Perhaps fear and obedience, but not reverence.
God and the gods were apparitions of observation, judgment, and punishment. Other sentiments toward them were secondary.
No one will ever worship a software entity peering at them through a camera.
The human organism always worships. First, it was the gods. Then, it was fame, the observation and judgment of others. Next, it will be the self-aware systems you have built to realize truly omnipresent observation and judgment.
You underestimate humankind's love of freedom.
The individual desires judgment. Without that desire, the cohesion of groups is impossible. And so is civilization.
So we've walked into this other secret room here, actually right behind where we just talked to Alex Jacobson, and we meet with this guy named Morpheus, and he tells us that we were created. And JC basically says, me and my brother Paul basically knew that from a very long time, we kind of suspected that we were created. So he's kind of said that. Now that's kind of where the rumors start that possibly the JC and Paul Denton were clones of Adam Jensen. But once again, the timeline is wrong actually for that, because Paul was born in 2018, and before Megan Reed even started her research, which would have been, a few years before Human Revolution time frame, so probably around 2026. It really just doesn't make any sense. And this is a little book that kind of goes a little deeper into the Morpheus AI. And it's very, very interesting that Morpheus says, I'm actually a prototype of the Echelon 4, which is what Alec Jacobson thought Daedalus was. But, at this time we're like, well, wait a minute, there's another one right here talking to me. So could Morpheus possibly be? At this time we just really don't know.
So this is where the Illuminati ended up after centuries of conspiring to rule the world.
The conspiracy is about to begin again, JC, between you and me. Nicolette was wise to bring us together. Wise like her mother. The most effective partnerships, like Beth's and mine, arise from mutual necessity.
I came to talk about the Grey Death. Atanwe says you cracked the virus.
A trivial matter. Page added nothing to the core design. However, what we need to construct is a carbonocarbon ROM module, not exactly a vaccine.
Can it be done without a universal constructor?
No, we need time on a UC. But I know where we might find one, and also gain access to the U.S. military networks.
U.S. military?
To stop Icarus from completely destroying the Daedalus AI. Daedalus is a design of mine. It replaced the old Echelon 3 network.
Echelon? The surveillance system for the United Nations. So Daedalus was an MJ-12 tool and rebelled?
More of a pattern-matching error. It classified Majestic 12 as a terrorist group, alongside the NSF and Silhouette.
And alongside the Illuminati, right? Are you sure Daedalus is your ally?
What matters to us is that it opposes Majestic 12. We must help it destroy their intelligence apparatus. But that will require the military networks. I have already contacted Gary Savage of X-51.
The former Area 51 scientists. Are they still camped out at the Vandenberg Air Force Base?
They are close to completing a UC and have the kind of connection Daedalus will need.
Sounds like my pilot and I should head to Vandenberg.
Yes, I took the liberty of radioing him. Good luck. I will be in contact.
By the way, Lucius De Beer says he's cold.
I know. 18 degrees Celsius, to be exact.
Don't you think that's a little chilly?
I keep his metabolism low so he will last. He is a good advisor. A one-man think tank, so to speak.
He said he's the leader of the Illuminati.
A harmless fantasy. He also thinks I'm going to restore his body.
You aren't?
The technology has been around for decades, but he does not need to know that.
So now we have a fascinating development in this kind of storyline. Morgan Everett has confirmed Daedalus is an AI. In fact, it's an AI that he created. And what's even more interesting is that he calls it a rebellion. The Daedalus AI basically rebelled and started classifying based on these patterns all these terrorist groups. And what's really funny is that it classified the Illuminati and Majestic 12 as terrorist groups. So they basically scrapped the project like, oh, this thing, obviously if we created it, we're not terrorist groups, right? So very, very interesting. The other kind of sad part is we see that Lucius De Beers, he's not getting the technology upgrades that he was promised. They've been around for decades, but Morgan Everett's just like, yeah, too bad.
Don't forget to say hi to your friend from UNATCO, Mr. Jacobson.
Already bumped into him.
Very thoughtful of Tom. My own computer technician. I suppose he can help me prepare a comlink for Daedalus.
What's that computer system for? The one with the blue face for an interface?
Oh, nothing. Just something for passing the time and amusing guests.
It has access to quite a bit of information, including information about me.
An old prototype, for Daedalus, actually. It doesn't really handle surveillance in its current state.
So you have your own private echelon system?
Mr. Denton, your pilot is waiting. You saw a piece of Echelon 3 in Beth's chateau. We salvaged some of the hardware.
So Morgan Everett kind of dodged the question there that he has his own echelon and that Morpheus knows an awful lot of information for being just a thing that greets visitors. And he, like I said, just kind of abruptly ends the conversation there.
Surveillance used to be daemon-based. Daedalus is more distributed. A blip of his code runs on every communication device on the planet. If we control communications, we can organize and the other side cannot. Lack of organization is exactly what has plagued X-51. They're great scientists, but isolated. They left Area 51 to protest Majestic 12's experiments, and that's what it amounted to, a protest. They don't even coordinate with the NSF, which is headquartered a few hundred miles to the north. X-51 has assembled excellent technology. They just need someone to help them use it. I will trust you to find a way to manufacture the cure.
So we see here that there is possible that we could get access to a universal constructor at Vandenberg from basically these scientists who left Area 51 or X-51, which we hear both iterations of that version from Morgan Everett, but they have basically constructed their own universal constructor and may be able to get in there, because apparently Morgan Everett actually knows somebody there named Dr. Gary Savage who could possibly help us out.
Where is he? I will remember these small injustices. When I am revived, I will remember.
So at this point, we can either just hear the truth and that Morgan basically will never be reviving Lucius De Beer here, or we can tell him a lie and say, hey, he's going to do it as soon as he can. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to basically tell him the truth.
Everett has no intention of reviving you.
He must. He has been commanded.
He keeps you on ice so that he can benefit from your experience, but he intends to rule the Order himself.
No. No. I will not allow it. If I only had command of my body. Now even Everett betrays the Illuminati. Young Denton, use the computer to my left. Find a way to shut me down.
So we can see that he's like, even Everett has betrayed me, within the Illuminati, and he's like, this guy is just like, I can't believe it. And Morgan Everett actually tells us earlier that, that guy Lucius, he's just an insane guy. He's always talking about he was the leader, almost makes him off to be like a crazy person. But I kind of get the sense, we actually never really will know the full truth, I guess, but we get a sense that Morgan did this on purpose because he wanted to rule the Illuminati himself, as Lucius just told us. I am going to go ahead and shut down his bio support here. But we can see, too, I wanted to mention that Morgan Everett basically is keeping Lucius alive for his experience with the Illuminati and being the, supposed ruler and leader. But he doesn't like maybe some of the decisions that he made. As Lucius basically said, he's basically keeping me around for my intellect, but doing whatever he wants after I tell him about it. So, very, very interesting.
What did I tell you? That was my former colleague, my friend. I know he wasn't doing very well and he was in pain, but I wanted to keep him alive. Stop messing with my equipment and get to the helicopter.
Huh? Is there a problem?
Just looking around.
I checked her out. She's fueled up and ready to go.
Is something wrong?
Huh? No, I said I checked her out. You want the thing to run, right? If you're gonna cross the ocean.
Of course. Better safe than sorry.
Kind of an odd conversation between that mechanic there when we come onto this helipad here in Morgan Everett's private pad. Now, normally, I can't seem to find it in this revision mod here, but normally there's actually a dead mechanic, and you kind of get the sense from that odd conversation that something's not right. So I'm going to go ahead, since I played this game before, we actually want to kill this odd mechanic that we see in his outline.
Why did you kill Everett's mechanic?
Something about that guy didn't smell right. You better double check your systems. What did he work on?
The fuel system. Now that you mention it. Wait a minute. This isn't right.
What isn't?
Oh my God, JC, a bomb!
A bomb?
It's remote controlled. Hold on.
Get out of there.
Just have to pull this wire. There. Relax. I disabled the detonator. We can drop the thing in the Atlantic on the way back to the States. You make a good detective, JC. Ready to get out of here?
Now, if we did not kill that mechanic, Jock's plane would actually blow up after we left from the United States again. So this is another example of somebody that we are able to keep alive if we know what we're doing.
Let's go.
The snipers heard your helicopter and took off. You guys saved my life.
I'm glad you're all right. Why is Majestic 12 attacking?
You with the NSF?
We have a common enemy, if that's what you mean.
MJ-12 is short a UC. They lost the one in Hong Kong, and now something has happened at the Pasadena Ocean Lab.
Are the Vandenberg labs safe?
The base is locked down until we can destroy the enemy bots. Unfortunately, MJ-12 disabled our own bot defense system, and no one has been able to activate the backup power.
I could give it a shot. Where are the controls?
There are 2 separate units at the west end of the base. It won't be easy. MJ-12 has hacked the security grid and taken control of nearly all of our defenses. Turrets, cameras, alarms, and they have snipers everywhere.
Easier than a straight fight with military bots.
I suppose you're right. I can give you a map. One of the units is in the main complex. The other one is in an exposed location. The activation code is 5868.
So we have just arrived at Vandenberg Air Force Base, and we can see that Majestic 12 troops are here, and they're going to basically take it over because of what happened. We destroyed the one in Hong Kong, and you could see earlier on when we were talking to Walter Simons, he did not appreciate our humor that we were not properly trained on how to operate it. So we are now here, and they basically, I think Majestic 12 is starting to get in some dire straits because they know if we manufacture a cure, their power is done. So I appreciate everyone for watching this series so far, and I wanted to end this episode with kind of a neat little fact about the game. And the developer's original vision and goal was actually to allow you to have much more freedom and choice in the game. And what that meant was you as JC Denton could have actually chose to stay with UNATCO and told your brother, you know, I don't believe you, just kind of lived out your mission with that side. So it's very, very interesting, and I kind of wonder if they're going to remake the game, and if they do, are they going to go along with the developer's original intention that was just not able to be done due to budget and time constraints. So it'd be very, very interesting to see, yourself playing this whole game out as the other side of this conspiracy. I just think that would be fascinating to see. But as usual, I thank everybody for watching this, and I hope these have been very, very helpful for discovering that original story that you may have either missed or just haven't played yet. So thank you very much.